So welcome to our fifth yoga class. I hope everyone is safe and well. So as always, making sure you have enough space around you for your practice. And a couple of blankets would be useful if you have them. We're going to look at Downward Dog in a bit more depth today, and a blanket's quite nice to roll up behind the heels as they ease back down towards the floor, and obviously for lots of other uses, a blanket or blankets are probably the most useful prop we can have. So we'll make a start. So lying down on the floor in your most comfortable position, and checking in and inquiring about how you're feeling as you start the class. What is the feeling tone in the body? Does the body feel a bit hyper, a bit wired? Do you need this class to calm you down and smooth you out and relax you? Or are you feeling, does the body feel a bit depleted, a bit heavy, a bit drained, a bit flat? And do you need the class to raise your energy levels and invigorate you? And the great thing we know about yoga is that almost by magic we can balance those feelings. If we come to the class feeling a little bit flat, a bit lethargic, our practice can energize us. And if we come to the class a bit stressed, a bit anxious, a bit wired, the class can relax us. So as we did last time, see how much you can start to lift yourself out of the feelings you identify just by focusing on the positive opposites. So if your body feels sluggish and a bit flat, then concentrate on your inhalation, and on each inhalation imagine that the body is becoming lighter. Concentrate on feelings of airiness and space on your inhalation. And if your body feels light, you feel a bit wired, then concentrate on your exhalation and imagine that on every exhalation you're grounding. Concentrate on feelings of being supported and cradled by the surface beneath you. And very gently place the fingertips on the tummy. The fingertips are incredibly sensitive. They can distinguish hundreds of different kinds of fabrics and weaves, for example. So concentrate on the lightest feather touch of your fingers, the slightest, most sensitive touch you can have on your belly. And then feeling your breath, moving your fingers which are lightly touching. So on your inhale, feeling the abdomen expanding and the fingers very slightly parting at the highest point. And as you exhale, feeling the abdomen gently drawing back and the fingers moving together. And just concentrate on that very sensitive touch of the fingers. Our brains pay wildly disproportionate attention to touch. And then gently move your attention back to your normal breath and carrying on breathing normally. Bring the soles of the feet on the floor and the arms to side the body with the palms down. I'm going to do an asymmetrical sequence here, the opposite to what we normally do in terms of what the inhalation does. Normally we open on inhalation and close on exhalation, and this time we're going to do the opposite. Just helps to break established patterns that we have and helps us to refocus on what we're doing instead of doing it robotically. So on your next inhale, you're going to gently float the right arm over the head. And on your exhale, turn the head to the left. On your inhale, allow the right knee to drop out to the right. Exhale here in this position and release. Then going back the other way, inhale, the right knee comes back to the center. Exhale, the head turns back to the center. Inhale, the right arm lowers back alongside the body. Then the other arm, inhaling the left arm over the head. Exhale, the head turns to the right. Inhale, the left knee drops out to the left. Exhale, release. On your inhale, the knee comes back to the center. On the exhale, the head comes back to the center. On the inhale, you float the left arm down to the side. 2 more rounds together. Inhaling, floating the right arm up over the head. Exhale, the head turns softly to the left. Inhale, the right knee and drops out to the right. Exhale, release everything asymmetrically. Inhale, the knee comes back to the center. Exhale, the head comes back to the center. Inhale, you lower the arm back alongside the body. Other side, inhale, the left arm over the head. Exhale, turn the head to the right. Inhale, the left knee drops out to the left. Exhale, releasing everything in that position. Inhale, the knee comes back to the center. Exhale, the head comes back to the center. Inhale, the arm lowers back alongside the body. And just repeat that 2 more times with your own breath. If you get a little bit confused, it doesn't matter. When you've finished, you bring the knees to the chest, giving enough time for everyone to work through this at the rhythm and speed of their own breath. And if you haven't already, begin to make circles with your knees. And then with the legs together and the hands on the knees, elbows are bent. As you inhale, allow the legs to relax away from you and the arms to straighten. As you exhale, draw the knees into the chest as the elbows bend again. Pause, squeezing, emptying all the stale air from the lungs. And then inhale, allow the legs to relax away from you and the arms straighten. Exhale, draw the knees in towards you, tightly emptying all the stale air from the lungs, drawing the tummy in. And repeat that a few times. Inhale as the legs gently move away from you. Exhale as you draw the knees in towards you. Concentrate on emptying as much of the stale air from the lungs as you can. And the last time, and then find your way up to a sitting position. And then towards the back of your space, the back of your mat, on your knees, with the bottom easing back towards the heels in child's pose. And see which position of child's pose feels best for you now, not assuming it might not be the same as the last time you did this posture, just inquiring for now which position feels better. Does it feel better for you with the knees together and the feet together? Does it feel better if you allow the knees to separate a little bit, making more space? Is it better for you with the hands out in front, the arms out in front straight? Or is it better to make fists and stack your head on top of the top fist, or the arms either side of the heels point to fingers pointing up? Which position of those, or any other, feels best to you? You've all done child's pose many times. So just find the best position for you, and when you're in that position, just moving into the experience of your breath in this pose, just curiously exploring the experience of your breath in whichever shape you've chosen, whichever shape of child's pose you've chosen. And then come on to all fours. So we're beginning this class the same as the last yin class began. On all fours, we're going to do up and down cats. happy and angry cats. So, as always, check your position. Your shoulders are above your elbows are above your wrists, the middle fingers pointing forward, the fingers are spread, equal weight into both hands, equal weight into both arms. Shoulders are as soft as they can be, and your hips are above your knees, and a straight line down to the floor. And as you exhale, gently draw the tummy in and draw the chin down, gently press into the arms, into the hands, and round the back. And as you inhale, gently coming back the other way, allow the body to arch from the lower back to the middle back to the upper back. The head comes up, the throat opens. And repeating that movement, exhale into the down position and inhale into the up position in your own time. Feeling the breath moving with you, with the movement, and also through the movement. Feel the breath leveling out and smoothing out the breath. Smoother the breath, the smoother the movement. And starting to lose track of where the breath ends and the movement begins. So they become a continuous ribbon of movement. And the last time into the up position, and last time into the down position. And then from here we're going to begin to open up the hips, the pelvis, the lower back and the spine, loosening them up. So begin to circle hips around, making very small circles to begin with very little movement in the arms or the legs. And then begin to make those circles bigger. And as they become bigger, you might come forward and you might come back a little bit towards the heels, progressively making those circles bigger and bigger, involving as much of the hips, the pelvis, the lower back and the spine in the movement. Feeling the breath moving naturally as it needs to do, softly, in tune with the movement forward and the movement back. And then begin to make the circles a little bit smaller, progressively smaller and smaller, bringing them back to the center. And when you're there, you begin to unwind the circles the other way. So think very gentle circles to begin with, maybe just isolating most of that movement just in the pelvis and the hips, and then making the circles as big as is comfortable. Coming forwards and back if you want to, so you're putting a little bit of weight into the wrists as you come forward. Feeling the breath moving naturally, softly, in tune with the movement forward and back. And then begin to make the circles smaller, slowly coming back to the center of that movement where it began. And from here, this is where you might want to take your blanket, especially if, as for many people, when you're in downward facing dog, your heels don't easily come back to the floor. Just roll the blanket into a sausage shape and place that behind your feet. and then come forward, or stay, sorry, on all fours. So downward facing dog can be a very active pose, pushing the ground away with your hands, pressing away from the shoulders, pulling the front thighs up, all of that stuff. But that's not the version we're going to start with here. We're going to approach and explore the many different subtle variations, approaching it in a playful, teasing, light-hearted way. Maybe for some of you, you've only really done downward dog as part of a sun salutation, where you probably come to a very similar version each time. You don't have time to play with the different versions, but here we're just going to take a bit of time to do that, the opportunity to play. Just a couple of words of caution. You're going to be upside down for a little bit longer maybe than normal, so any unpleasant sensations come out and back to child's pose. Also, we spend quite a lot of time on our wrists, so there's going to be pressure building up on the wrist, so don't overdo that. Come back to child's pose and loosen up the hands at any point you need to, and then come back and join us wherever we are. So the variations of downward dog can approximately be divided into three versions. There's the bendy knee version, there are longer dogs, and there are shorter dogs. And in the longer dogs you step the feet further back, brings more of the support into the arms and the shoulders. And in shorter dog you don't step back as far, and more of your weight is now on your feet. So when you're ready, tucking the toes under, and first version with the knees bent. So keeping the knees bent as you gently raise the hips towards the ceiling. This makes it easier to push the hips back and tilt the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Do that a few times. It also isolates the shoulders and the spine, but doesn't require as much of your upper body involvement as the long version does. Just play with that wave-like movement of tilting the pelvis up and down whilst keeping the knees bent at all times. So exactly the same pelvis movement you were doing in the cats before. And then resting there with the knees bent on your tiptoes, and we're going to do short dog. So short dog is done by not stepping back as far as you would normally in your down dog. So kind of remember where you would normally be in a downward dog, how far back your feet would be, and step them a little bit further forward. So it becomes a bit more like a forward bend. Notice that you've got less weight on your hands and you've got more weight on your feet. As you gently begin to ease one heel down towards the floor and then the other, if you're not already doing that, you'll notice it works the hamstrings at the back of the thighs, and it requires less upper body strength but more hamstring flexibility, the same as a forward bend. Notice you've taken some weight off the arms and the wrists, so they're not under as much pressure here. So playing, exploring, in a very light-hearted way. Make sure you're smiling very slightly. And then into long dogs. So a long dog. So you're going to step further back with the feet than you might normally do. And notice how there's more work now in the shoulders and the spine. The arms and shoulders are bearing more weight. And we're using most strength from the chest, from the torso, from the shoulders, and the arms. Precaution here is that there's a tendency for the hands or the feet to slip. And we know that a grip-free yoga mat can make a big difference here in a long version of the posture. And as you did before, easing the heels back one by one towards the floor, and then both together, or whatever feels nice, onto that rolled up blanket you've got there behind you. And now come to your version of dog. The long pose or the short pose, beginning with the knees bent, but the sort of distance that you would normally be in if you were just asked to do this position as a transition. So you're not too narrow, but you're not so far that you can't stretch out the heels. And now activate the pose. So from the position you've chosen, begin to straighten your knees, but be sure not to lock them. Firm your outer thighs. And the upper thighs roll inwards slightly, so you feel the front of the pelvis slightly narrows. Check you have equal weight in your left foot and your right foot, in your left leg and your right leg, in your left arm and your right arm. As you did with the outer legs, you firm the outer arms and you press the bases of your index fingers actively into the floor. And from there you lift along your inner arms from the wrists up to the tops of the shoulders. Draw your shoulder blades in against your back. And then see if you can widen your shoulder blades and draw them down a little bit more towards your tailbone. Keep the head between the upper arms in the classic version of this pose. You continue to push the ground away with the hands, open the shoulder blades, relax the neck. Hands press away from the shoulders, front thighs are drawing up. So many things to think about. Fingers are spread. Gaze down the nose to the navel, or close the eyes. Many of you might have come back to child's pose and be joining us again here, or maybe you're in child's pose. Just a few more breaths if you're still in downward dog. And then moving from here into sun salutations. So whether you're in child's pose or whether you're in downward facing dog, step forward with the right foot, come in and bring the left knee down, gently arch the back, and then rock forwards and backwards in this position, bringing the body forwards and back, so just stretching the hips a little bit in this lunge with your right foot forward. And then coming back to downward facing dog, the one you were in before. Can you find some of those, just any of those features of the activated pose we talked about? Doesn't even matter if you just remember one or two of them. And then step the left foot through, bring the right knee to the floor into a lunge on the other side, and gently forwards and back from this position. And this time when you come back from downward dog, just another little tip here. When you come back to downward dog, imagine moving from the back, from your heel and from the back of your thigh. So the heel, the back of the heel and the thigh draw you back into downward dog. And then step on your next inhalation, the right foot through, left knee down to the floor. And then rock back slightly and use that momentum to step forward head to knee as you exhale. Inhale, pressing into the feet, reaching the arms up over the head, keeping a nice deep bend in the knees. And exhale, let the breath go. And 2 rounds of sun salutations together. Inhaling And exhaling, bring the palms of the hands together. Inhale, reach the arms up over the head. Long, slow movements this first round. Any softer options you feel you need to. Exhale, swallow, dive down to the floor. Bend the knees, release the head. Inhaling, right leg back, right knee down, gently stretching into that position. Retain the breath, left leg back to plank. Exhale, knees, chest and chin. Inhale to cobra. Exhale, remember heels and the back of the thighs move you back. Move from there into downward dog. Inhale, right foot forward, left knee down, looking up. Exhale, left leg forward, fold head to knee. Inhale, reach the arms up over the head. And exhale, lower the arms to the side. Inhalation, unwind the shoulders. On one, exhale, palms together. On two, inhale, arms up over the head. On three, exhale, swallow, dive down to the floor. On four, inhale, left leg back. Left knee up, gently looking up. Retain the breath, right leg back to plank. Exhale, knees, chest and chin. Inhale to cobra. Move from the heels and the back of the thighs to downward dog. Inhale, left leg forward, right knee down, gently looking up. Exhale, right leg forward, fold head to knee. Inhale, press into the feet, arms up over the head. And exhale, arms down to the side of the body. 2 more or 4 more rounds in your own time. Find the smoothness. So you're using just enough muscular effort to move you through the postures, relaxing whenever you can. Let the poses unfold naturally. Moving in and out of each posture mindfully as well as physically. Get a sense of undoing. Get that sense of one continuous ribbon of movement and ribbon of breath circling. You get a sense, although you're doing 2 or 4 rounds, you could go on forever. Keeping that ribbon moving around, circling around. And of course, when you finished or if you finished, separate the feet, close the eyes, soften the knees, turn the corners of the mouth up slightly. Feel the breath moving up from the soles of the feet to the crown of the head on the inhalation. Down, crown of the head to the soles of the feet on your exhalation. Continue to breathe. Inhale, soles of the feet. Up the legs, through the pelvis, up through the spine to the crown of the head. And exhale from the crown of the head down through the spine, down through the torso, down through the pelvis, down through the legs and back to the feet, the soles of the feet. And then we're going to do a standing wide angle forward bend. So turn sideways onto the mat and take a comfortable wide stance. So you can always come wider as you release a bit more, but just come as wide as is comfortable. And then hold your elbows, right hand left, left hand right, and tuck the chin down and very gently begin to sway down towards the floor. Micro bend in the knees, swaying down. And then place the hands on the floor. Or if you've got blocks, you can place the hands on blocks. And let's look at what's happening to the feet. So lengthen the toes out in front of you. So the pads of the toes are as far forward as possible from the balls of the feet. Feel the inner arches of both feet lifting slightly, and the inner ankles lifting, the inner knees lifting, the inner thighs lifting right up to the inner groins. Again, you're down here for a little while, so any unpleasant sensations, lift the head up. If you're comfortable here, bend the knees a little bit and lift the buttock bones away from the back of the knees a bit more, tilting the pelvis up, and then begin to straighten the legs. Continue to let the upper body hang down deep. Pour the weight slowly, a bit more weight from the upper body through the pelvis, down through the legs. And then bending the knees if you need to, rolling back up through the spine, imagining, which is what's really happening, each vertebra is stacking one on top of the other as you slowly come up. The last thing to stack is the head stacking high on top of the neck. And just allow the arms to hang. And visualize the breath entering every cell of the body. And then option here is to balance. I'm going to do another balance in a minute, but if you want to try a balance here, maybe take the arms out to the side to help you balance a bit more and come up onto the balls of the feet. Hold for 3 or 5 breaths. And release, if you haven't already. And the balance is eagle. So we're going to begin with just the legs. So take the arms out level with your shoulders. And drop all of your weight down through your right leg, down through your right foot. Bend the right leg and take the left leg over. Wrap it round your right leg into eagle. And now if you're comfortable here, try to bring the hips square. Your hips will have turned a little bit to the left, so gently ease them round to the right. You can have the hands on the hips to do that if you're comfortable balancing with the hands on the hips. Again, if you fall out of it, just come back patiently, try it again. Elegantly come back into position, no hurrying. Find that point of focus somewhere in front of you. Can be straight ahead or on the floor. Most people find it a little bit easier on the floor. And fix your breath in that point and your mind in that point. And then gently unfold the legs. And then when you're ready, playfully and in a spirit of exploration rather than intensity, cross the left leg over the right, drop the weight down through the right leg to support you, and left leg wraps over. Arms out level with the shoulders to balance you. Is it easier this side or is it more difficult? Most people find one side, the side they favour, is easier to balance than the other side. Just accept that. And from here, hands on the hips if you're balanced, and gently square the hips. So your hips have probably turned across to the right, so ease the hips back, square to the centre. As before, if you come out, if you just elegantly come back into the pose. And then release. And then with both the legs and the arms, so you wrap your right leg over your left, and your right arm comes under your left arm as you wrap your arms around. Right leg over left, right arm under left. Different versions of eagle you can play with. You can have a very high eagle where you lift up the elbows as we do for a shoulder stretch and take the elbows away from you. Or you can begin to bend and bring the elbows down towards your knees, which feels a bit more like a kind of bird position than when you're straight up. Just play with your own balance practice today on that side. And then gently unwrap your legs, unwrap your shoulders, your arms, release your shoulders. Pause for a moment. Feel how maybe the energetic body, the body memory there, still feels like you're wrapped a little bit to your right. And then the other side, so left leg wraps over right. The left arm comes under right and wraps round. If you're very comfortable here, how square can you make the hips? Balance is much more about keeping the mind steady than the body. Obviously, our focus is on our body, but keeping the mind stable and the breath stable make balances 100 times easier. When you feel you've been there about the same amount of time, unfold. Get that lovely feeling of the shoulders floating away, and then find your way down into a relaxation pose. And we're going to look at shoulder stand in more depth next week. But for today, you just come into your chosen inversion. It will be 4 minutes, including any variations that you want to of shoulder stand, plow. So you might want to come into plow first and then shoulder stand. You might want to alternate between one and the other. Just approach shoulder stand in a playful way, the same way you did with downward facing dog. Just to give you some idea, that's about halfway through the 4 minutes allotted for this. Of course, you might have come down already, you might never have gone up, so we're not doing bridge today. You could do bridge if you wanted to, or just stay in your relaxation position. Some leg raises, we didn't do those either earlier, you might want to do those. You continue with your inversion practice. It's the last minute coming up of the 4. slowly finding your way down to your relaxation position. And any counterpose you might like to do here for the next minute or so before we move on, or just staying in Shavasana using your concentration to gently release the pressure, exhale softness into the shoulders, anywhere else that you feel a slight stiffness or tenseness from the shoulder stand. And slowly bring your knees to your chest and find your way to a sitting position, and then onto your front on your front relaxation position, with the hands stacked one above the other under your forehead, and big toes together, heels falling out to the side. And your back bend choice here, so lots of choices tonight, or this afternoon, or this morning. I don't know when you're doing this class. So if you want a gentle back bend, then you can take Sphinx pose with the elbows on the floor, palms of the hands on the floor, or palms of the hands together. The further your elbows are away from you, the softer the position is. Even softer if you just hold the opposite elbow. Sphinx pose would be that position, legs separated. Or Cobra. Last week we did it without the hands to begin with, and then with the hands. You might choose to do that in the next couple of minutes. Or another back bend that you haven't done for a while that you like. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do your back bend practice. Obviously, it goes without saying, it's probably not a good idea to try to hold Cobra for 2 minutes. It's quite pretty hard. You might want to repeat it a few times, or finish in Sphinx, which is a yin posture that can be held for long, long periods of time. And then release the position if you're in Sphinx or whatever back bend you're in at the moment. Slowly releasing and coming to that relaxation position with the forehead resting on your hands. And when you're ready, you push back to child's pose. And remember, we did child's pose earlier. When you come back to it now as a counter pose to a back bend, do you feel instinctively like you want to come to a different version of child's pose than the one you chose was your favorite for today earlier on? Or does the same template work just as well here? And then coming to a sitting cross-legged position, comfortable cross-legged position. You can pad under the buttocks if you want to. We're going to twist from here. So the same lateral stretch we've done a couple of times. So bring the right hand onto the floor to your right and the left arm alongside the left ear. Take time to lengthen from your left hip point all the way up the side of the ribs, the underarm, up the arm and out through the fingers, lifting up while you ground down through your left buttock, lifting up and over to your right, accommodating with your right arm, taking it further away from you, bending it, straightening it, find the most comfortable position. Keep the left side of the upper chest rolling back so the underarm stays open. Imagine a line of energy reaching beyond your fingertips. Breathe along the line of the stretch. And then inhale back to the center. Allow the left arm to lower down. And when you're ready, repeating the other side. So left hand on the floor, arm alongside your right ear, right arm alongside the right ear. Take time to lift up and lengthen that side. It's quite amazing how much you can lengthen that side of the body before you come over to your left, accommodating with your left hand. And slowly coming back to the center. And then twisting. And key to all twisting, there's spinal twists, so obviously your awareness is on your spinal column. So in this position, focusing your awareness on your spinal column and the midline of the body, and that helps you to physically connect to that center. And draw energy, and imagine you're drawing energy into the midline of the body. That's where the movement comes from. That's where you initiate the movement, from your center. So left hand on the right knee and right arm behind you, not moving at the moment, just place the right hand behind you. Then inhale, keeping your foundation stable as you gently twist, especially the foundation of the opposite side of your body to the way you're twisting. So keeping the left side of the body stable as you turn to look over your right shoulder. And the activation of the pose, if you choose that option, always works in two phases, coordinated with your breathing. You create space and length on your inhalation, and you move into that space and the length you've created on your exhalation. if you've ever been assisted in this position, you know that the spine actually will move around a lot more than you think it might. And that coordinating, making it active, shows you that you can, it's kind of obvious extra amounts of twist you can get through that, creating space on your inhalation, keeping the midline connected, and then gently release and come back to the center. And then right hand, left knee, place the left arm behind you. So draw your energy and into the midline, into your center. That's where you're moving from, the physical center of the body, just below the navel. Next time you exhale, gently turning, keeping the foundation stable, especially this time the right side, the opposite side that you're turning, the side you're turning away from. And be aware of the movement, the rotation of your spinal column as you gently turn to look over your left shoulder. Again, it's your choice whether to make this a passive position as we would do in yin. You could hold this for quite a long time. Or making it active, more yang, by inhaling, creating space and length in the spinal column. And exhale, moving into that line and space that you've created. And then gently back round to the center. And make any other movements you feel you'd like to tonight. And they might be the same movements you always make, or they might be different. Don't just do them out of habit, although habits are very helpful in getting us to the mat. Once we're really into our practice, trying to get rid of some of those habits once we've established the practice. Coming to lie down on your back in your chosen relaxation position, putting a blanket over you if you want to. It's going to be about a 10-minute relaxation. I have the feeling that I've gone over an hour. It's actually quite difficult to fit the class into an hour. Often on a Monday night, we don't stay in the final relaxation that long because it's quite late in the evening by the time we finish, and don't want people to get too heavy before they leave the class. But here obviously you can do this class at the time of your choosing, so we make the final relaxation a little bit longer. So wherever you are, be quiet, be still. Be light, be spacious, open out, but without becoming restless. Be grounded, but without retreating. You're not going anywhere. You don't want to go anywhere. You're deliberately being where you are with yourself. Be here. Be with yourself right here, where you are. And in the core, in the center of that mobility, that stillness, that calmness, that peace, that space you've built, be aware of the natural movement of life happening within you. The breath moving through you with life, as it did at the beginning of the class in child's pose and cat. Feel your body breathing all by itself, but you are watching it do this. You're observing yourself riding the breath in and riding the breath out. Feel the breath turning and coiling round gently at the end of each inhalation as it becomes an exhalation, and turning and coiling around gently at the end of each exhalation as it becomes an inhalation. Be there with the breath all the way in and all the way out. And be there with it during the still points between the end of the inhalation, before the exhalation begins, and at the end of the exhalation, before the inhalation begins. So you have submerged yourself so thoroughly in the natural stream of the breath that you create a uninterrupted mental continuity tied to your breath. The breath is one long, continuous, coiling ribbon. And your awareness is one long, continuous watching. The breath is one long, continuous, coiling ribbon. And your awareness is one long, continuous watching. So your awareness is as continuous as the breath. And you return to it after every interruption in the flow. You return to your one long, continuous watching, linked to each one long, continuous breath. Your breath is one long, continuous, coiling ribbon. And your awareness of the breath is one long, continuous watching. Every time you lose the flow or the flow is interrupted, you return and establish that same uninterrupted mental continuity tied to the breath. The breath is one long, continuous coiling ribbon, and your awareness is one long, continuous watching. Seamless. You're with the breath all the way in and all the way out. Riding the breath in and observing yourself riding the breath out. And then slowly bring your awareness back to the physical imprint of the body on the floor. And repeating the following affirmations to yourself after me. May I be safe and protected. May I be peaceful. May I live with acceptance and with ease and with kindness. May we be safe and protected. May we be peaceful. May we live with acceptance and ease and with kindness. And I'm going to leave you here. Thank you for so much for taking the time to share this class with me. And when you choose to come up at the end, just try to keep the feelings of space that you have for as long as you can. Namaste.